Hey everybody, this is Melody from Melody's Makings. You can find my website at www.melodies-makings.com and my Facebook page at facebook.com/melodiesmakings. I am here today to start off what is going to be a basic how to knit tutorial. I have found that a lot of the crocheters out there who are in the newborn prop industry, which is mostly what I write patterns for currently, are really interested into getting into knitting and to crossing the divide between crocheters and knitters, but it's hard to find good material in a step-by-step manner that teaches you what you need to know. So I am going to go ahead and do just some basic tutorials along with blog posts so that everybody can get a feel for how to knit and if it's something that you might like to do. So the first thing that you need to know when you're knitting is about needle and yarn sizes, and it can kind of be a doozy when you're first getting started. For instance, these are two different sizes of needles, and if you had no idea, like I didn't when I first started knitting, that there were different sizes of needles, you can come up with some really interesting items. For instance, I once knit a baby blanket on these huge needles with really tiny yarn, and that's going to create a super lacy look, which sometimes when you're going for a lacy look is awesome, but when you're going for a baby blanket that you don't want them to get all tangled and snagged in, it's probably not the best move. So that's why you need to learn a little bit about the basics. There are thinner needles, or I guess skinnier needles, which go with thinner or skinnier yarn, and there are thicker needles, which generally are used with thicker or fatter yarn. And each yarn also has a size to it. So here, for instance, is a very average weight of yarn. Yarns are referred to in weight as their size, which means the thickness of the strand of yarn. So this is a worsted weight yarn, which is probably the most common, and it's generally used with a size 8 needle, which is also a very common size needle. You can see each type of yarn has a number on the label. So this has a number 4, which means it is worsted. A number 5 means it's bulky, which is slightly bigger than worsted, and a number 3 means it's a DK, which is slightly smaller than worsted. So the smaller the number, the thinner the yarn, the larger the number, the bulkier the yarn. So these two would generally be used together, a thinner yarn with a skinnier needle. Then we have thicker yarns, which are super bulky yarns, and those strands are much fatter, and you use them correspondingly with a much fatter needle. So a lot of times on the labels, for instance, this brand does not have a number on it. A super bulky yarn would generally be labeled as a number 6. So another way when you're in yarn shopping, if you need a specific type of yarn, is to look at the recommended needle size. So this one says 11 to 13 is the recommended needle size, which is what tells us that it's a super bulky yarn, because bulky yarns are generally used with a size 10 needle and super bulky yarns are generally used with a size 11 needle or up. So if they don't have that number on the label like this one did, they don't have this number right here. Of course, it's upside down, but you get the point. If they don't have that number, then you reference the needle size. And even if they do have the number, they're still going to tell you the needle size, the corresponding needle size that's best to use with them. If we can find it here anyways. Here we go. This recommends needle size 8. They also have a gauge on each of them. A gauge is a whole nother story, and I will go into that on my next video. But what I'm going to do to start you off is I'm going to give you a blog post with the corresponding needles to the corresponding yarn weights so that you can get an idea when you go out to buy your first yarn for your first project what sizes you might want to start with, and we will go from there. I will also be recommending hats that are good to start on, needle sizes that are good to start on. So in just a couple days I'll be posting the next segment. You can get a feel, go out to your yarn store, see which type of yarn you like the feel of and things like that. Maybe grab a couple if you feel like it. And in a couple days we'll move on to how to cast on and how to do a gauge swatch. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.